Even though it's pretty small, the Marshall Kilburn 2 packs an impressive amount of sound and a very long battery life in a pretty small package. And even though there is a lot to like about the Marshall Kilburn 2, there are just some things about it that just make me wonder, what the heck was Marshall thinking? Here's everything that I like about the Marshall Kilburn 2 and everything that I hate about the Marshall Kilburn 2. The Kilburn 2 is Marshall's largest portable Bluetooth speaker and retails for $300. And even though it looks basically identical to all of Marshall's other speakers, the easiest way to point out a Kilburn 2 is by the built-in carrying handle. If you want to pick this speaker up, I'll have links in the description below, and if you use the links, it really helps out the channel. I suggest you check them out because you never know when this speaker might go on sale. Where most other speaker manufacturers these days are wrapping their speakers in a brightly colored fabric mesh or building in a light feature, Marshall insists on using the same classic design that has lasted them for decades, and by no means is that a bad thing. The Marshall Kilburn 2 is a very good looking speaker in its own right, and it can be a great option for someone who wants something that looks a little more sophisticated. The Kilburn 2 has a solid metal grill on the front, a hard rubberized body that's made to look like tumbled leather, and a non-removable carrying strap that's lined in red velvet. Now, this carrying strap does feel pretty sturdy and it has a good amount of stretch to it, but only time will tell how it will actually stand up to regular use if you constantly take it on the go with you. Now, even though the Kilburn 2 has a pretty tough exterior that should have no problem standing up to constant bumps and scrapes, you should play it safe and keep it away from water since it's only rocking an IPX2 rating, which is kind of below average for premium portable speakers these days. When it comes to specs and ports, the Kilburn 2 charges via a 2-prong charging cable. Now, even though, yes, obviously it would have been much better if the speaker charged via a USB-C port, the Kilburn 2 actually has fast charging, something that not a lot of other speakers have. If you plug the speaker in for 20 minutes from a dead battery, you're going to get 3 hours of playback time, and I've been asking for fast charging in portable speakers for a while now, so it's cool to finally see it here. The Kilburn 2 also keeps the audio jack, which is great to see because some of the manufacturers are starting to get rid of the audio jack even on their larger speakers, namely the UE Megaboom 3 and Sony XB501G. But I do wish the Kilburn 2 had a USB-A out port or a USB-C port so you can charge your own devices when you're out and about. But thankfully, the Kilburn 2 is rocking Bluetooth 5.0 instead of Bluetooth 4.2 like most other recently released speakers. And if you're an Android user, this speaker supports aptX HD, which is good. And this speaker can also be connected to 2 devices at the same time, which is more good if you're a power user. And if you're an iPhone user, the speaker also has very little latency when watching YouTube videos on your phone. It's still there, but it's more usable than most. What I'm basically saying is Marshall managed to tick off all the right boxes when it comes to wireless connectivity on this speaker. Battery life on the Kilburn 2 is also pretty impressive. Marshall advertises a 20-hour battery life on the Kilburn 2, and in my testing with the volume set at 80%, the speaker managed to average 11 hours of playback time. But that was with the bass knob set to 5 and with the treble set to 7. I tried to give the Kilburn 2 a JBL sound signature because I wanted to see how its battery life compared against the JBL Extreme 2. But if you use the Kilburn 2 at a higher bass setting, then its battery life is going to drain faster. Now, having the control knobs on top of the Kilburn 2 is both awesome and infuriating. On one hand, I love that I can adjust the bass and treble directly on the speaker. I don't have to go through the extra step and open up an app on my phone. Whenever I'm going to listen to music, I like to crank the bass all the way up, and when I'm going to listen to a podcast, I crank the bass down. But I hate that the volume knob is only local to the speaker. It's not actually adjusting the volume on your phone. So whenever I power the Kilburn 2 on, I just crank the volume all the way up to 10. Easy fix, no problem. But what drives me mad about this speaker is that it doesn't have a multifunction button to play or pause the music or to skip a track. When I first got this speaker, I assumed this button was a multifunction button, but it's not. You can only press and hold it to put the speaker into pairing mode. I don't get why Marshall just didn't add a multifunction button on the speaker when all of their other speakers have them. Like I've said in the past, I absolutely hate when manufacturers limit physical controls on their devices. Not having a multifunction button on the speaker isn't just an inconvenience, it's stupid. Okay, now that I got that out of my system, let's talk about speaker setup. The Kilburn 2 is a 36-watt speaker with a single frontward firing woofer and dual tweeters. Now, there's a bass reflector that shoots a good amount of that delicious bass out the back of the speaker, so you are going to notice a good amount of performance improvement if you use this speaker up against the wall. Now we're about to jump into a sound test. I'm going to be using the older JBL Extreme 1 because it has JBL's older, brighter sound signature, and I'm going to be using the JBL Boombox in indoors mode because it was heavily requested. And the Kilburn 2 is going to be playing with its volume knob set to 10, bass set to 5, and the treble set to 7.
So I'm crazy. Oh my baby, got me staring at you. So I'm crazy. Won't you bend that back for me? We won't stop. Got your feet both locked. You get to fly with me. I can take you down for a ride. I take you around my life. Jaywalking, crosswalking, lip blocking with you. I know it, you know it, we make it.
Like I said earlier, the Kilburn 2 sounds very impressive for its size. Distortion is basically non-existent at max volume, and if you wanted to, it can have almost as much bass as the JBL Boombox if you crank the bass up higher. But I can't help but feel that its instrument separation and soundstage could be better. Bass is not a problem on the Kilburn 2, but everything just sounds very close together compared to JBL's older and newer speakers. The Kilburn 2 by no means sounds muddy, but when instrumentals really get going, everything just tends to blend together. But overall, the Marshall Kilburn 2 is a decent sounding speaker that gets more than loud enough at max volume. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the Marshall Kilburn 2. Unlike most other speakers out there these days, the Kilburn 2 doesn't have any sort of companion app, and you can't pair it up to any other Marshall speakers so you can get them to play in sync or in stereo mode. The Kilburn 2 has zero gimmick. It's all about enjoying music. And for that reason, I think the Marshall Kilburn 2 is another great speaker if you just want one speaker. I really like the Kilburn 2's classic design, and it's a really nice departure from all of the other fabric mesh speakers I've reviewed so far. It has a very long battery life, just as long as you have the bass knob turned down, and I really like that it has fast charging, something that I hope starts to catch on. And the bass on the speaker is very impressive given its size, but I just wish instrument separation was better. But what really sets the speaker back for me is its lack of a multifunction button. It's like Marshall knew they had an awesome product on their hands, but decided to handicap themselves by getting rid of that multifunction button. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. Support the channel by clicking on the links down below, and I'll catch you next time.